How does the role of ethics specifically play a factor in your profession? Ethics plays a huge role in my profession. I guess to begin with, just from a licensing standpoint, all attorneys in Texas are licensed by the State Bar of Texas, and we've got a comprehensive list of ethical obligations that we must comply with. Otherwise, you face certain sanctions. It can lead to a private reprimand, a public reprimand, probation, suspension, or disbarment eventually. So truly, our livelihood as an attorney oftentimes relies on our ability to comply with our ethical obligations set forth by the State Bar of Texas. And I guess on another note, when we're dealing with prosecutors, we're dealing with judges, we're dealing with certain courts, our ability to conduct ourselves in an ethical manner plays a big role in how we're perceived, the credibility that we're given by different individuals, by different courts. And when we compromise our ethics, we lose that credibility, which can have an adverse impact on our clients that we're representing in that case, or future cases, or any time that we may become before a court or deal with a specific prosecutor. So ethics plays, a huge role from a licensing standpoint, and also I think an important role just from a success standpoint in our profession.
Ethics is very important to the public accounting profession. It's one of the core values. And as you read through the accounting literature, ethics are integrated with the other core values that we follow, which are independence, objectivity, and integrity. Ethics are so important in our profession that they're written throughout the standards by our governing bodies, the PCAOB, the AICPA, and the Texas State Board of Public Accountancy. And those ethics practices that we do are considered when we have our PCAOB inspection every 3 years, our AICPA peer review every 3 years, as well as our annual inspections performed by our quality control department. Additionally, ours is one of the few professions that's required to take a test. We are required to have 4 hours of CPE or continuing education class on ethics every other year, that it's considered so important to our profession. And as far as how it affects our daily practice, I think initially it comes into play when we go through the client acceptance process. We'll review the management team of the business that we're looking at proposing on, seeing if there's any history that would cause us to question their integrity or their business ethics. When we complete the client continuance process the following year, we'll reflect back on our experience with that management team during the previous audit to see if something's come to our attention that changes our assessment. We review the tone at the top, which is talked about, but which is very important in our profession as we evaluate our clients. And then lastly, business ethics are reviewed in our audit planning process for every audit. In our planning meeting, we have a fraud discussion, and in that fraud discussion, we talk about are there internal or external factors that are affecting that client's business that would possibly cause an otherwise ethical management team to behave in an unethical behavior. So as you can see, it's an integral part of the public accounting profession.
My advice for you guys is to find someone that could be an ethical accountability partner. That sounds super lame now that I've said it, but find someone else that's in your life that has nothing to do with your field of work, that can be a sounding board if you're uncomfortable with the situation. So like my example is my husband. I come home to him a lot with situations from work or other things, and he has nothing to do, he has no idea what I do as a professor or when I was an auditor and understood my work at all. He glazed over when I started talking about the numbers, but he was always a really good person to explain an unethical situation to and help me reason through, because it made me break down things in a more simple way to explain it to him. So sometimes that helped me. And also, he's a really ethical person, and so he was a really good person to kind of bounce off and help me think through things. And so I guess my advice is to find someone else like that in your life. It could be your parents or siblings or someone. That would be my advice.
The second question, what is your advice for our class? Do right. There's right, there's wrong, Occasionally there'll be a gray area, but I'd say in 99% of the situations you find yourself when there's a question, there's right, there's wrong. In my experience, accountants that I've represented in the past through either criminal investigations or actual criminal trials, they've been in situations where they've made decisions, otherwise very good, very decent people. They've made decisions. Sometimes they've been pressured by upper management. Sometimes they've made decisions that have been questionable decisions based on trying to succeed from a financial standpoint. They've made decisions sometimes just honest mistakes that don't amount to crimes, but they nonetheless have found themselves either accused through an SEC proceeding or accused sometimes through the Department of Justice through some sort of wrongdoing. But if you really focus on, you've got a fairly set guidelines in terms of how to conduct yourself, how to approach certain transactions, how to approach certain accounting principles. You follow those principles. You do right. If there's ever a question, you seek advice. If there's ever a question versus right versus wrong, seek advice, caution, and always caution you to err on the side of right versus if there's a gray area or there's any question about it. If you do that, you're going to find yourself in a much better position than sometime down the road, heaven forbid, you get falsely accused of skirting some principles or violating certain accounting principles where somebody may think that it's not only wrong from a civil standpoint, from an accounting standpoint, but heaven forbid somebody could think it was wrong from a criminal standpoint.
Regarding any message to your class, the difficult part of ethics is not knowing what the right thing to do is, but it's getting yourself and others to do the right thing. And to accomplish that, you want to be at a place where the culture enables you to address those issues. You want to see that the firm has a quality control system in place such that you know who to talk to, where to research the issue. And if there's a continuing difference of professional opinion with the partner, where do you go next so that you know that you have an avenue to address?
To answer your question about the biggest takeaways from my experience, I think one of the biggest things would be not just identifying your issues when you're struggling, but having the courage and willingness to really confront and work through those issues and not just push them aside and be in denial about it. Another issue is honesty. And I think it's identifying your core values and being very deliberate about following them. And then if and when you screw up, being honest about it, living a really transparent life, both professionally and personally. I think that also includes surrounding yourself with people who are supportive and willing to help, who you can go to in times of need when you have a big decision to make, somebody who's going to support you and help you make good decisions, and also the type of people you can go to when you maybe make the wrong decision, and people who will support you and help you do the right thing, instead of either pushing people away or surrounding yourself with people who are not going to hold you accountable. You want to be able to go to the people in your life and ask for help and be honest, and that's really going to help you personally and professionally. I think the last thing is just goal setting. It's setting attainable, reachable goals and focusing on what you want to accomplish, not trying to figure out what you don't want to do, but really trying to figure out what you do want to do. How do you want to live your life? What do you want to attain? What's important to you? Focus on those things and work towards them going forward. That way you're less likely to stall, plateau, and make mistakes if you're really focused on the end game of what you really want to accomplish in life. Figure those things out and work towards them. That's really what I most took away from my experience.